Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for How TechnipFMC is Standardizing HR Processes Globally, sponsored by Oracle Corporation and presented by Julie Kranga, TechnipFMC, based out of Paris, Stuart Miller, TechnipFMC, based in Houston, and moderated by Pamela Stroko from Oracle Corporation. Before we begin, I'd like to remind you that this webcast has been pre-approved for HRCI credit and SHRM credits. Please be sure to attend the complete webcast in order to receive your credits. If you have any questions today for our presenters or for HR.com, please type them into the questions area on your Zoom control panel, and we'll be sure to follow up with you. And it's my pleasure now to turn you over to today's presenters.
Hi everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. It's really my pleasure to bring you this webcast today as a host, because this is a great story of how TechnipFMC and Inoapps created a fantastic HCM transformation to the cloud as two organizations were coming together to build a common approach and a common employee experience. I'm Pamela Stroko, Vice President of HCM Transformation and Thought Leadership at Oracle, and in my role, I work with customers and prospects to help them understand how they can build a great people engine to grow and sustain their business. With us today from TechnipFMC, we have Julie Kranga. Julie is Vice President of HR Information Systems, People, Analytics, and Innovation. First of all, welcome, Julie, and if you could tell us a little bit about your role and you contributed to this project and actually led this for TechnipFMC.
Good afternoon, Pamela. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone. As you said, I am in TechnipFMC in the People and Culture group. This is how we call our HR group. And I'm in charge of global HR information system, people analytics and innovation for HR. In this transformation, together with my team and in close collaboration with IT, we have been implementing Oracle Hcm at TechnipFMC. TechnipFMC, it's a newly born company, only 20 months back, and we are already pretty advanced in this transformation, which is about a global harmonization of our HR processes and implementing and roll it out Oracle Hcm as our main and soon unique tool to manage all our HR processes.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to introduce Stuart Miller. He's Senior Vice President and Chief Information Officer at TechnipFMC. Stuart, tell us about your role and the work that you did to move this project forward.
Okay, thank you, Pamela. So hi, everyone. As Pamela said, my name is Stuart Miller. I'm the Chief Information Officer for TechnipFMC. I'm based in Houston, although you probably realise from my accent, I'm not a native Texan. I'm originally from the UK. Yeah, as Julie said, this was and we'll go into this later on in the presentation. There was definitely a lot of benefits and also some pain from merging the two companies together from a systems and processes perspective, and we identified those issues fairly early on, which is what led us to come to the conclusion that a move to Oracle HCM for the HR group and the company was the right thing to do. I mean, I certainly helped, as Julie said, partner with HR and build the business case. Explain the rationale for doing it and set the governance in place as well. So as well as that, we did merge the two companies together. We have just over 37,000 employees and formed the new IT organization, which amongst this is obviously delivering other projects as well. Thanks, Pamela.
Thank you. And then finally, our last panelist is Andy Bird. Andy is CEO of Inoapps. And Inoapps was the integration partner that was part of this project. So hello, Andy, and tell us about who you are and your role in this.
Thank you, Pamela. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody else. My name's Andy Bird. I'm the CEO and founder of Inoapps. My background actually came from implementing Oracle on-premise software for various different organizations, but my career started working as a user and then went into implementing. I saw the opportunity to create a partner focusing on oil and gas and Oracle applications around about 13 years ago. We had a big focus on Oracle Cloud when it first came out around about 5 years ago. And we were one of the first ourselves to implement Oracle Cloud Hcm and Oracle Cloud ERP. And since then, we've been focusing on delivering solutions for our customers all around Oracle Cloud and Hcm. We've had the privilege and the honor to work with Technip for probably around about 8 or 9 years as their implementer for Oracle on-premise applications. And now we have this Cloud Hcm program, which is going extremely well. And we were delighted to be selected for this project.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. So before we get started, I think it would be really helpful if you knew a little bit about TechnipFMC and why this was just such a great opportunity to bring people together as they were going through the merging of these two companies. So I'm going to turn this over to Stuart and Julie to tell us about TechnipFMC and a little bit about the company and who you are and what you do.
Okay, so TechnipFMC is one of the leaders in providing services for the oil and gas industry. We are a fully global company, as you can see on this map. We are present in 48 countries with a very diverse workforce, both in terms of nationalities, but as well in terms of jobs that our people are doing. We have more than 1,000 different jobs in the company, from field technicians to any type of engineers, people on vessels, and all the associated support functions to operate the company. So this brings a lot of diversity with all the good aspect of it, but as well a lot of complexity when we roll out such global transformation. And I think this is one of the area where we have been pretty successful, is that we have a very good network of both HR and IT people around the world. And this is helping us to be efficient when we have to engage a large crowd of change agents to make our transformation successful.
Great, thank you. So let's talk about our agenda for today and what we're going to be covering in this webcast. The first thing we're going to be talking about is in the beginning. So you have these two organizations that are coming together, and what did that mean exactly as they began to work on this project? So we're going to be hearing a little bit about the beginning story. The second thing we're going to be talking about is the journey to the cloud. As all projects, of this size, there are phased approaches, and there are areas where there's a greater sense of urgency. So we're going to be looking at the journey to the cloud. What was phase one, where the organization is today, and what's to come in the future. The third area we're going to be looking at is business goals and projected outcomes, and what the information strategy is for TechnipFMC. And then finally, we're going to be hearing from Stuart and Julie about what they've learned along the way and the advice that they would give to any organization that's kicking off this process or starting the journey. So let's talk about the beginning. So Stuart, let me turn this over to you.
Okay, Pamela, thank you. And I will be very careful not to be overly technical in this overview. But when we merged what was Technip and FMC together, that transaction closed in January 2017. And we looked at it from an overall system perspective. The amount of complexity from a systems and process perspective in the organization was huge. For any of you in the call that are familiar with the oil and gas industry, you will be aware that there is or continues to be ongoing merger and acquisition activity. And that's not unique to oil and gas, but what it means is that many companies are the result of periods of years of pulling together organizations. So in the case of TechnipFMC, that meant that we had 5 core ERP systems across the company. We had a large part of the organization on SAP, and we had a large part of the organization on Oracle, and also a large part of the organization on an ERP called IFS. What that meant was different levels in the quality of the data within those systems, whether it be financial or in the case of this, HR or personnel records. And that meant that at a very critical stage of the organization's birth, that getting basic data out of those systems was very, very challenging. So being able to make, data exists in systems to enable business decisions, and when that data is not either entirely accurate from an HR perspective or requires a lot of reconciliation in Excel sheets and things like that, then obviously it causes management level inefficiency. So that was really the problem statement that we identified. Any transformation, of course, takes a lot of time, and time is sometimes something we don't have a lot of. So one of the things we did quite early on was implement a master data management tool across those complex landscapes to start forcing a common set of data into our systems. We did that not only in the finance and procurement and supply chain side, but we started doing that within the HR record side as well. So whilst we still have this disparate number of systems, at least it started to align the data. And as it says on the last point there, the real issue for the business at the start was lack of visibility of resources. So who's reporting into my organization? Am I aware of all the staff in my team? How do I make sure that we haven't orphaned anyone by meaning that they don't have an associated line manager because we can't validate that into systems? And then of course headcount reports, etc. as well. So whilst we were able to achieve those things, the amount of effort to get to them was quite significant. Pamela?
Yes, thank you so much for that. Let's take a look now at the journey to the cloud. And Julie, I'm wondering if you can talk to us about your approach, where you are in the implementation, and what you've learned along the way as you've implemented talent management and are approaching phase 2 in Global HCM and other services.
Sure, Pamela. So as Stuart has explained, right after the merge, the ERP landscape and HR system landscape was pretty complicated. Of course, it takes time to put in place the foundation for the future. By foundation, I mean to implement one master data for HR, one core HR. And this could not happen right after of the merger. So what we decided to do in year 1 of the integration was to find a way to provide immediate benefit for our employee and for the organization. And to accomplish that, we have decided to focus on some processes, some talent management processes that brings immediately value for the full company, without waiting to implement a complex system migration. For that, we have continued to use the existing landscape with SAP, Oracle on-premise, and more tools. And we have connected those tools to Oracle Hcm that we have been using as a slave. And on Oracle Hcm, we have deployed several modules, the goal and performance. So it means that at the end of our first year of being TechnipFMC, we have been able to enroll all employees in one unique process for them to evaluate their performance and one unique tool. I think this was a great achievement. It was exactly 9 months after the merger. The same year, we have deployed one unique job portal for TechnipFMC based on Taleo, and we have as well deployed social sourcing to provide user-friendly interface and appealing interface both for our external candidates and for people at TechnipFMC who are keen to move in the company and can apply for internal opportunities. And we have as well deployed the same year a few processes that are more HR-driven, such as talent review and succession planning. We are still in the process to implement competencies, and the reason why this is still ongoing is because as we are a new company, we need to rewrite our job referential and the competency referential. And obviously, this takes a lot of time. So this is what we've managed to do in what's referred as phase 1 on this slide in about a year. I must say I'm pretty proud of what we have achieved. And it has been seen by the organization as a very good way to show how we can integrate as one company, and showing that we can operate quickly in the same way in both legacy company, and show to employees that despite the complexity of merging, we have kept with our priority to put our people first and offer them some interesting tools for them in the first year. Going into the one system as well for those talent management processes is allowing a lot of transparency, typically around ability for people to apply for jobs anywhere in the company. This has been greatly appreciated by our people.
That is a great year one story, but one thing I'm really curious about, so you've got these two organizations coming together, so there's really a change management issue with that. Then you have new processes and a new approach and you know, new tools to support that. Oftentimes you've got to think about, in those situations, you've got to think about manager adoption and bringing managers on. You've got to think about bringing employees on and how you bring those groups together and communicate from just a change management perspective. So I'm wondering if you could share with us how you did that, because this is a really big deal, and the way you describe it, it sounds so perfectly smooth. And I'm wondering how you did that. How did you communicate? How did you get people on board?
It was not perfectly smooth, but still it worked because we have about 95% of people who have completed their performance appraisal in the first year. So I can see that it's a success, and we have hundreds of people applying for jobs every month internally. So it means that they are using our tools. So the way we have managed change management is by leveraging some networks inside the company. So we have various HR network, we have the recruiter network, we have the talent manager network, and we have a HRIS network. So it allows us to have a relay in each of the region of TechnipFMC. And what's good working this way is that they can as well locally customize the message and address differently their different population. I take an example. In Brazil, they have large manufacturing plants. They will not speak the same way to their worker in the factories than in some other region they could speak to other type of population. And in Brazil, they will need to address people in Portuguese if they want to be efficient, etc. So we have tried to combine some very top-down approach with the flexibility of having regional and local team customize the message and get organized the way they want, as long as they deliver the target.
That's really great. That's really helpful. Now, I want to move on to the business goals. So you were starting out, you had an idea of here's what we want to accomplish. And I'm wondering if you could share that with our guests that are on the call this morning.
Okay, so previously I spoke a lot about what we did in year one around talent management processes. So this was good, but definitely this is not enough to address the challenges we have today. Stuart, you spoke about all the challenges we have around data quality, not having one master data for HR, etc. So we felt the need last year that we had to go beyond that, and we had to go for core HR. So we were convinced, both Stuart and myself, we had of course to convince our executive team to make this investment for this transformation. But for us, there was no other way to serve the company properly than to go for one master for HR data, one way to handle HR processes across the globe, with a full integration with our ERP landscape. So this process has taken us a bit of time to convince everyone, but I think that now everybody is on board. As we progress in the project, we can see more and more enthusiasm for people to go to this global HR system. So we are focusing a lot on harmonization of processes. This is bringing a lot of value for a global company like us, because we have a lot of businesses that are across the globe. So we like that in one business, people go through the same processes and are not treated differently depending on their location. It's as well a better way to control what's happening and to make sure we are compliant and we are as well in line with the best standards.
So no, go on.
Yeah, maybe one important point as well is that, as Stuart mentioned, with the complexity of our post-merger landscape, even counting the people every month was an absolute pain, and knowing how many people we have where is kind of basic. So it's as well for the purpose of having accurate people analytics and powerful people analytics that we have made this decision to deploy the system, which definitely will increase drastically the quality of our data and enable us to rely more on data to make the right business decision.
Thank you for that. Now, one thing I want to focus on here in your business goals is what you said about you wanted to increase personal development opportunities and address a more flexible workforce. So where are you with that specifically? Because I know as we look across the talent market today, one of the things that's most important to people is development. I will join a company for development. I'll stay with a company for development. So how have your employees seen that change or improve over time?
So in terms of personal development, there is several aspects. So one, as I mentioned, is the ability for people to have, with total transparency, access to all opportunities at TechnipFMC, and the ability for them to apply to any job across the globe. We are as well using our performance appraisal for people to express their development needs and have quality discussion with that manager during that time. Of course, with the talent review processes, it's an opportunity for HR to discuss about future talent and how to develop further the people. One thing that today we have not fully deployed is the competency module, but this is coming, and people will be able to assess themselves against some targets related to their competency, and derive from that some associated development plans. And I think that then we will have closed the loop around development opportunities. In terms of flexible workforce, I mean, by flexible workforce, what we mean is that people who are able to learn continuously during their career and be able to adjust to some new skill needs, etc.
Thank you for that. I think that's really important. Like I said, because of the talent market we're in, it's just so important for people to be able to see those opportunities and have that visibility. Now, if we can look at goals from an information system perspective, and Stuart, I was wondering if you could walk us through these.
Yeah, thanks, Pamela. So again, without being too technical, one of the issues from the merger, purely from a selfish perspective within the information technology function, was just the sheer number of applications and the costs associated with maintaining and running those applications. And that fed very strongly into the ROI calculations we did for this project. And one of the main benefits of cloud from our perspective is scalability. So rather than having, it may be a fixed CapEx expenditure that you have to depreciate over a number of years, cloud allows us to do more of that from an OpEx perspective, and therefore make more of our costs variable in line with the activities of the business, whether that be going hopefully up or sometimes down. So moving many of our systems to the cloud is a key strategic element for TechnipFMC for those reasons. Again, standardizing the integrations with the ERPs and identity management is an important perspective, and I'll just touch briefly on that from a compliance perspective. So compliance, just like many other companies, is critically important to TechnipFMC, whether that be from a SOX perspective or GDPR, and anything that can help automate or improve our compliance stature is clearly of a benefit, and we saw that there. Just going back to the value for the employee, speaking to employees, they like simplicity and they like to be able to find things easily. And as you look at across the globe, as Julie touched on, the core HR records may be held in one system, but it could be that other elements, maybe it's compensation, etc., are held in a different system, and that can lead to complexity for employees that are with us, or in fact, frustration for new employees joining us. And so that's why we felt strongly that one common platform for all of these self-service functions was really, really important to us and sent the right message in terms of one integrated company. And that's what we're starting to see emerging now with our core HR updates. Again, with cloud, it means that a lot of the management and the service updates or the patching is managed for us. And that's important because from a regulatory perspective, it can be sometimes daunting to keep on top of, again, I mentioned earlier, GDPR legislations and other elements. And that was one of the appealing elements of Oracle Hcm, because I think there are over 200 countries supported within the solution. And that means that, you know, if we're operating in a certain country where we have to have tighter controls around certain types of employee data, then that's built into the tool and we're made aware of it that way. And then lastly, I go back to that scalability point. You know, as companies grow and potentially acquire other companies as well, a ready for growth model is very, very important. And as Julie said, we've been very rigorous in our standardization of the tool. So we've really tried to avoid customizing it to any great extent. And I think that's, you know, it kind of feels like day one at IT school, but that is so important, because if that governance, and we'll talk about governance in a second, isn't right, and countries are allowed to deviate from the core solution, that frankly adds two things. It adds employee frustration and it adds cost. And that was something we've been very clear that we wanted to limit and keep it as standard as possible. Pamela.
Thank you. I mean, I think that your last comment there about keeping it simple, reducing costs, they're just so important for every organization that's embarking on this journey. So when you look at, you know, where you started, where you are, I am certain that both of you, Julie and Stuart, you have learnings along the way. What you really thought worked, what you might do differently next time, and I'm wondering if you could share that with our listeners.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Pamela. So I think it's very important when selecting an IT tool that there's a good acknowledgement across the management levels that there's no one tool is going to be a silver bullet to the problems in your organization. It's a combination of change management, governance, and also process. So when we selected Oracle Hcm, we knew we had a very, very good tool selected, but the effort, we had to be realistic to the business that this wasn't just going to be IT installing a tool. There was going to be significant effort around cleaning data. There was going to be significant business resource required from the HR teams in the country. But in any good change management program, a call to action or a sense of urgency is very, very important. And as Julie mentioned earlier on, I think that sense of urgency for us was created by the acknowledgement that the processes and the ways of working and the onerous efforts involved in perhaps getting reports together, that burden that it put on HR and other teams really kind of drove that sense of urgency that we needed to do something. So Julie touched a little bit earlier on making sure the drivers are understood and supported at the executive level. There can be some emotion when you try to remove systems. There are people in any company who may have invested personal time and effort and emotion into localized systems, and when you knock on the door and tell them that we're going to turn them off and move to a global solution, that can sometimes be met with a lot of resistance. And that's why, you know, the setup of a steering committee at an executive level to cut through some of that is important. And I'm not suggesting that we don't want to take everyone's opinions into account, but these types of discussions, when you know, they can slow the whole thing down. And I think once we'd made that decision, it was important to stick by it and have the executive support behind it. I think that the effort from a governance point of view, understanding the stakeholder map, who was involved, what's the effort, realistic discussions around that is very, very important. And then the last point there, involving the local businesses by making them accountable. Again, it goes back to the point that it's important, and it builds trust that we talk to the business and say this is not just going to be an IT installation and we'll let you know when it's ready. They need to feel part of it, and that includes being part of the governance. So obviously I talked about a standard solution, but we all know at a country level there can be regulatory or other issues that do require to be considered, and making sure your governance model adjusts and adapts to that while keeping the core principles together is very, very important. So Julie, I don't know if you want to touch on methodology perhaps, and the success factors.
Yeah, sure, Stuart. So in terms of methodology, the first point is around transformation. So no offense to IT people, but it's difficult to engage a full organization if you speak to them only about tools. So what we are focusing on to engage first the HR community and then more broadly all the employees is to explain about this transformation journey, which is about harmonizing the way we work and the way we operate at TechnipFMC. And I think this is a way to sell more easily the fact that all employees, all managers will be impacted and will have to work with new tools and learn new way of working. Because everyone gets the point that going to harmonization, standardization, best practices is the right things to do in such global organization like us. So we have spent the initial step of the project to define a blueprint. And this blueprint, we are trying to make it as simple as possible. First, and second, as we deploy in the various entities, we are really very strict to avoid any customization unless it is mandatory regulatory requirements. So it's not because I've always done this way, okay, but it will change. So we have started to deploy. The first countries is Norway. Norwegian people are not to be a bit stubborn, but they pretty easily understood that they had to go for a standard process. And of course, we will address their local regulatory requirements, but we will not entertain any other local request. In terms of how we manage the full project, we go hand in hand in terms of new processes and new systems. It's a global project team. I think it's working well this way. There is a good collaboration between the part of the team who looks more at the process and the part of the team who looks more at the technology. Both of them have dependencies, and they come as one team when we go in the country to deploy. And I think it's working well this way rather than to segregate processes and tool aspects. Pamela, do you want me to go through?
Oh yes, I'm sorry. I was speaking and there might have been a technical it didn't come through, so I apologize for that. So thank you so much for taking our listeners through governance and methodology and critical success factors. One voice I want to pull into this discussion is Andy and the approach from Inoapps. So we've heard a lot from TechnipFMC around project, how they approached it, how they move things forward. And we'd like to hear from you in terms of how did Inoapps move this forward and help them move this forward?
Thank you, Pamela. Great question. So it really starts out probably during the preparation phase for the project. I think Stuart said that governance is the key importance to making the success of the project. We work with Technip in setting up the governance for the project to ensure that we have the right method, the right cadence of meetings going forward, the right decision processes. We also know that data migration and data quality is one of the challenging areas in any project of this kind. So we do start to do early reviews of data, working out what the issues could be and how we can bring that stage a little bit forward, which is sometimes left to a little bit later on in the project. There is a huge emphasis in building the project plan and making sure that we have an achievable plan and resources. One of the things that is always difficult on the client side is actually getting good resources freed up from their day job to be dedicated to the project. Once we have the team in place and we are ready to start the project, the key is about building the blueprint for the business processes. We have the modules, we have the application, but we really need to understand the business processes that the HR teams and the users want to get in place so that we can ensure that we build a productive solution for the future.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I want to now go to some questions that have come in as we've been sharing the content here, and we have a number of them. And the first one actually is for either Julie or Stuart. It's so appropriate that it follows, Andy, your comments here, because the question from one of our listeners is, what were you looking for in a partner when you went and you said, okay, we need an integration partner, and how did Inoapps meet those requirements?
Okay, so I can maybe kick it off and then pass it to Julie. I think, I mean, Andy was right. We know from large-scale system implementations in the past that the two critical things that go towards success are governance and availability of the right business resource. And I think we were looking for a partner that were in the same wavelength as us with regards to that, and realism, really, that there's, you know, that this is a large effort. It's important that everyone associated with it understood that. And you know, we needed someone that we felt could coach and mentor us through a little bit of that, but also that was aligned to the way that we like to execute and work projects. And we have a relationship with Inoapps over a number of years, and we have a feeling like we're really kind of industrializing the model for rolling out these systems, whether it be the governance model, the absolute focus on data quality, because without that data quality, the system is not going to give you the full value that you need. Julie, I don't know if you want to make any comment on that as well.
I think the partnership between TechnipFMC and Inoapps is crucial in the success of this project. And the fact that Inoapps knows pretty well our organization is definitely a plus. I believe as well that we have been able to create a very good dynamic and sense of urgency and sense of, I would say, excellence on this project. And that on both sides, there has been a conscious effort to put the best resources for the success of this project, and this is why it's going well so far.
That's great. Now we have another follow-up question, kind of on the same theme and topic. How did you work with Inoapps and Oracle to build your HCM cloud business case?
Julie, do you want to take that one?
I could not hear Pamela.
Okay, the question.
So go on.
How did you work with Inoapps and Oracle to build your cloud business case?
I'm sorry, Pamela, it's cutting. How did we work with Inoapps and Oracle to build?
Okay, yeah, let me try again. And I'm sorry to everyone on the call because I know we've had a little bit of voices cutting in and out. So the question that came in, how do you work with Inoapps and Oracle to build your cloud business case?
We have got the support of the inside team of Oracle to help us build a very detailed and documented business case through a lot of analysis and a series of interviews of leaders and HR and IT people across TechnipFMC. So this was to build our initial business case and sell it to the executive leadership team of our company. And I think again we work hand in hand with Inoapps and Oracle as we progress. So right now, for example, we are working on leveraging our global shared services organization to run part of our global core HR. And on that, we are as well taking advice both from Oracle and Inoapps on how we can be most efficient at doing this.
So we have another question that came in, and Stuart and Julie, I believe this question is for you. Can you please talk more about increased analytics accuracy to optimize decision making, like any tools used for analytics?
So we will, yeah, please go ahead, Stuart.
Okay, so I'll just touch on it. I think I'll probably let Julie comment on the analytics within HCM, because there are certain drivers that we want to focus on from a business perspective. So that could be anything from gender diversity to involuntary turnover, and generating that within the tool is obviously important. What I would say is that we again, I mentioned earlier about master data management and the importance of that, because what you'll find with the business is there will be analytics within the HR domain that the HR or business teams may want to specifically focus on. But one of the emerging trends we're starting to see is this desire to aggregate HR data with whether it be project or financial data, which wouldn't be held within Oracle HCM. And so we've implemented Power BI for analytics that allows that aggregation outside of the tool. But Julie, you might want to talk a little bit about the analytics within Oracle HCM, because I know they're quite powerful, right? Yeah.
So we are developing several reports using the standard OTBI in Oracle. This, for example, will allow us to cover a majority of the needs in terms of standard reporting for HR and managers. We are as well deploying Oracle Cloud Analytics solution to address some more complex needs. For example, to address issues like displaying reporting based on multi-source data. But in terms of increasing the value of our analytics, I mean, it's completely obvious when you have all data in one system and you operate the system in a harmonized way. The data quality gets better, and reporting on headcount and any other process come from one system. At central level, we can have more insights rather than asking each entity about how they have managed this and this process this year, which currently we still have to do. But if I take, for example, the example of the compensation, so we are as well deploying the compensation module. Today, it's very difficult to have a control on the total budget that has been spent on salary increase. Tomorrow, when we will have fully deployed this module, we'll have complete control on our budget, and both HR and finance people will be very happy about that.
Thank you. Now, the next couple questions that have come in are for you, Andy, and let me give you the first question. So you've had a lot of project experience, and in seeing this in a number of organizations, certainly you must have come across some pitfalls from time to time. And our listener wants to know, how do you help your clients through them? So, you know, if every project has things that, you know, you do differently or might be a pitfall from time to time, how do you help your clients through that?
So I believe it all starts out in the initial engagement. The only way that these complex transformation projects will be a success is by the team of people that we jointly, us and our customer, put together to ensure the project success. At the end of the day, it is the team of people that are on the project that will make this project a success. And we have to ensure that both us and the client are working together in a partnership, as we have done with Technip. If the client sees us as a supplier or a resource provider and not as a partner to complete the transformation, this is where one of the biggest failures that we can see on a project. We've talked a little bit about governance, and of course that's very key. I think there's two other real sort of people factors, which is change management. As these projects are going faster in time than perhaps a traditional on-premise transformation, then we need to ensure that we are managing the change through the life cycle of the project. We need to be identifying the business impacts. We need to be dealing with them, and we need to be communicating to the workforce and the wider workforce of what is coming and why it's coming, and not just about what the tool, it's the reasons behind them, the changes, to get the buy-in from all of the end users and the workforce. And then I would say, slightly as the project goes live and even after, it's ensuring that the users, the workforce, take on the adoption of the new tool and the new processes, and analyzing that if they're not, why are they not, and what do we need to tweak to make sure that we get the adoption. If we don't achieve the adoption, we will never achieve the ROI on the project. Of course, we have to make sure that the data is good and clean. We have to make sure that we're delivering exceptional reporting and analytics. But to me, it's really around, it's the people side of the project that makes it a success.
Thank you so much. There's a follow-on question that's come in, and just to let everyone know, we have a couple more questions, and I don't believe we're going to have time for more than that. But Andy, there's a follow-on question that has to do with the benefits and the efficiencies and the savings. So sometimes an organization is looking for those very things. How do we become more efficient? How do we save more money? How do we reduce costs? And I'm wondering if you could comment from your experience, and I know this might be a difficult question to answer, but in general, what kind of savings do people realize when they go through a cloud transformation?
Okay, that again is another great question, but I'm going to come back to answering that in a second, because over the last 12 to 18 months, my view on the answer to this question has changed quite a bit.
Okay.
So I kind of would turn that round with another question, which is, what are you going to do as a business if all of your competitors are on a modern platform that can really take advantage of the benefits of AI, machine learning, and chatbots to try to be able to reduce their overheads, but also get a phenomenally different now, and we have no idea where it's going to end. But I think the real answer is, can you actually afford not to get yourself onto a modern platform? So I see the transformation evolving, starting off in the sort of first move to a modern platform, but the first move, at the completion of the first move, is not the end journey. There is more to come, and technology is advancing in such a rate that we don't really know where to go. But going back to answering the actual question, it's the simple, that sounds simple, things where the saving are really made from. It's ensuring that data quality is correct so that you can really deploy a sensible and productive shared service center. In doing that, you can really enable good self-service functionality. I think what we're seeing with the cloud tools now is actually a self-service environment that users are happy to use. It's like the tools they use at home. It's modern. It's nice to use. I think in previous incarnations of self-service, they were a bit clunky. They weren't so easy to use. They weren't so logical in flowing through. The system, the Oracle Hcm system, is built to notify the users and the HR staff in things that they need to be aware of, rather than go looking for problems. The system should be feeding you with good information, watch lists of things to tell you what to go and do, rather than having to find out what's going on. Some of the new modules coming out, the new recruiting cloud, the help desk tool, all inbuilt into the HCM product, are going to bring further savings and experience. We've done some trials using chatbots with the HR help desk to answer some of the regular questions. In doing that, what you can find is that you can reduce your cost, or actually not just reduce your cost, but you can deploy your people to do more value add services to the business. And then ultimately, I'm quite excited about where the whole AI piece will take us in terms of the HCM applications.
Thank you. Now we have time for just one really quick question. I think this is for you, Julie. What modules of Oracle HCM did you implement?
List of modules. I start by talent management. We have implemented, of course, the talent profile, goal and performance, Taleo and social sourcing. Also, Taleo is not Oracle HCM, but it's kind of part of the suite. Succession planning, talent review, competencies. This is what is implemented, and ongoing, we have a compensation module to handle salary review and bonus, etc. Core HR, and I think I did not forget anything.
Well, you know what? We're out of time. So thank you so much to Julie and Stuart and Andy for joining us this morning. And thank you to TechnipFMC for being Oracle customers and customers of Oracle HCM. We've had a great discussion. A lot of great questions came in from the audience, so thank you to all of you. We will be sending out the information. So it's been great chatting with all of you, and we hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much.
On On behalf of HR.com, I would also like to thank our speakers today and Oracle Corporation for educating our audience. We really appreciate your taking time to share your insights with us. Just a few reminders for our attendees. If you'd like to view this webcast again, the archive recording and slides will be available for up to 7 days for our free members. And of course, if you have a Recertification membership or HR Genius membership, you have unlimited access. All webcast credits are stored in your HR.com account under View My Credits. You'll also receive an email from HR.com within 1 to 2 business days with your certification credit information. Your feedback is important to us, so please take a moment to fill out the exit survey that has opened up in a browser window on your browser once the webcast is ended. This concludes our webcast. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.